Yeah, that fucking thing's moving big time. Wow, this is in Dunsmuir, right outside my front door. Looks like he's coming our way. Hopefully we can scare him away. All right, here we go. Another day. Another day. Lots of important voices to be heard from the people around the planet. Crazy Dog's got a fresh bone to chew on out of the freezer. Saved all the bones from those last 2 deer I harvested on the elk. The butcher chopped them all up for me in lengths, so she shouldn't be too annoying. Anyway, so we'll start off today. I got an email, direct email from a man whose name is Lieutenant Mark Bashaw, U.S. Army. And he forwarded me a link to share with you. I looked into Mark. I was aware of Mark earlier. And he's definitely somebody that you may, if you have time, you may want to see what he has to say and share with all of you, because he gives a shit about all of you, which is quite valuable these days. You need to find the people who actually give a shit about you today, right? That's who you need to be looking for and sharing with. And keeping people like that around you and growing people like that around you. That's pretty tough. I watched that. I'm going to mention the Rumble movie that I forwarded The movie's name was Died Suddenly. I'll tell you what, a lot of you probably watched it by now. It was so hard for me to watch the innocent people just dropping dead, caught, in restaurants, subways, sports, side of the road, in front of newscast cameras, in front of cameras, directly, inadvertently caught on regular security cameras. But the amount of people just dropping dead was so hard to watch them pass. And knowing that they were obviously more than likely very healthy people until they had something forced into their body, which is not, and everything too is going to make mention that the two words conspiracy theory, you can look into the history of those and why they came about and what their purpose is. Those two words will not be used on this channel ever again. Today, coming out of my mouth right now, conspiracy theory, theorist, either one, those words will never be used here ever again. Look into the history of them and that'll tell you exactly why, but I will not share those words here ever again. But anyway, the hardest part for me, one of the hardest parts was watching, like it's, you hear about this, you hear about that. I know people directly have had physical harm done to them from forced medical procedures this past couple of years. But to see those innocent souls passing, and what's another eerie part was how they all, if you watch that video, how they spun looking up and reaching up like this and spun around, and then their body, when it convulsed, when their souls passed out of their bodies. It was so hard to watch, and it was also infuriating. It made it very, very real. Well, it was very real to begin with, but that was such a huge impact for me. It really, really got me. It really got me. It still has me right now, and that's why I'm going to promote that video again. And yeah, there you go. Share it, all right? Look into that video on Rumble, Died Suddenly, and share the living shit out of it, all right? Share the living shit out of it. Anyway, I'm going to put a link for Mark Bashaw in the video description below. And he cares about all of you, okay? He cares about all of you, and that's a good thing. Now, what else? Got a new hat back. I know she sold my hat. She had to have it. My green one, the green hat I had previously absolutely disappeared. She actually got a handful of these in yesterday. I think there's more coming. Yeah, she's got a lot more coming. I think they're going to be in about a week or something into her store there. And what I can't wait for is the Hunter Orange ones. Will be coming in soon. And then, yeah, there's some other surprises coming up. But anyways, just to let you know for Sarah that she managed to restock the store with a fair amount of hats. I don't know what a big number is, a small number, but I know I made her get 50 of these suckers. I think they're going fast. So there you go. First come, first serve, I guess. And I do believe that the UK and Australia can order on the same page now. How brutal is that? It costs more to ship one of these hats in Canada, with the shipping's included in the price of these hats, you guys, all right? But it costs $25 to ship a frickin' hat 2 hours away from here on Canadian soil. And for the damn near the same price, you can ship one of these things across the Atlantic Ocean to the United Kingdom, or the full length of the Pacific Ocean down to Australia. Canada-stan is being ran by complete, incompetent, absolute, I'll bite my lip. Let's get on with hearing some people's voices. But anyways, the store's been loaded a little bit, but a lot more is coming, I guess, in a couple days or something. There you go. I'm the messenger. The link will be in somewhere in here for you. Now, let's get some voices heard. Holy, here's a book. Excuse me. All right. This is from the Owl Man. The Owl Man replies again to obviously questions from previous emailer. So this is titled Sabe and Dogman, for what it's worth, for Angie, the Owl Man. Steve, thank you again for taking the time to read this. As I stated before, I hate taking up your time, but you say if it helps the people, send it in. Yeah, dude. Give her. I never claimed to be. Oh, sorry. I'm not an expert, despite what the haters say. I never claimed to be. I'm only sharing what I've learned from the Sabe. And for all you people out there, might be there's a handful of people out there, and I know of, apparently there's a handful of other Sasquatch, Bigfoot community pages out there who somehow think that I demand that everyone refer to these beings as Sabe. And I coined the term, which is absolutely false. The word Sabe came way, way, way before Bigfoot, possibly way before the Europeans, way before Sasquatch, and it is a First Nations name, if not possibly a name came from directly from these beings, is where the name Sabe came from. Ojibwe, I believe, was the originator, I think. So there you go. Sorry for that little blurb. Everything I'm sharing here has come from them. I'm still in the process of getting more information from them as time allows. At this point, I conduct myself with them as a friend more than a detective. I pretty much learned everything I've wanted to know about them, so now our conversations are more personal. Kind of like, hey, how you been? How's the wife and kids? Was winter difficult this year? Do you need anything? Anyway, I thought I would address some of the concerns from a recent email you read from Angie, who is now encountering dogmen on her homestead. So things I will address you have read in previous emails I've sent, so forgive me for repeating these. I figure maybe there are so many new people that maybe this will help. Everything I know about Dogman has come from the Sabe, so let me give a little background to help everyone understand. Long before Mindspeak came into the picture, I thought Dogman was just misidentified Sabe. If you recall, I have mentioned a friend of mine who was with me on this journey. It was him who introduced me to the main clan of Sabe he was interacting with for years. I guess you could call him my research partner, but I hate that term. We were very close friends. He was originally from Oklahoma and moved back many, many years ago. He called me early one Sunday morning, I think it was 2010. He wanted to tell me about something he had seen hiding in the grass on a rural road where he and his daughter were pulled over searching the late night sky with his night vision monocular. For brevity's sake, he saw through that night vision what can only be described as a hyena-looking thing with tall, pointy ears. He described it as laying in the grass watching him. Short muzzle like that of a pit bull, tall, pointy ears like a German Shepherd, and striping on its front legs that resembled that of a striped hyena. Hyena, bracket. Hyena, type twice in brackets. Not the more common spotted hyena. Crocuta, bracket. He said it was the size of a tiger. There was more to the story, but because he had seen this up close with night vision, I believed him. Dogman was real. Up until then, I thought it was just nonsense. If you want a story, I might be able to coax them into sending it in. It's pretty detailed. A few years later, when Mindspeak became a viable form of communication, it was only natural that the question of Dogman would be presented to the Sabe. This is what I recall of what the Sabe say of them. They had no idea what we meant by the term Dogman. One Sabe said, "What? Can a man mate with a dog and have little ones?" I remember saying no. I had to rephrase the question. "We have heard of another being like you, Sabe, but it has the head of a wolf." Here is his reply. "You speak of the wolf creatures. We hate them. We were told they did not live in the area we were in, but lived much further north." That pretty much translated to the state north of us where there are sightings. So the Sabe goes on to describe the Dogman with a hatred that I can only see as racial. I mean, spitting piss and vinegar. Quote, "Animals, they are nothing but animals. They don't manage their herds. They waste food. They kill for fun. We hate them," end quote. The hatred is more like that of a racial or genocidal manner. I mean, damn, without exception, the vitriol was intense across the board, no matter the Sabe you asked. I even remember asking them if any of our people were friendly with them. They replied, not that they knew of. The Sabes say the Dogman actively hunt their unguarded women and children, and they will eat them and you would hate them too if they killed your women and children. The Sabe say it takes 3 adult males to kill 1 large dogman. You need 2 to subdue the arms and the head because, and I quote, they have sharp teeth and claws. The third Sabe is the one who has the job of trying to kill the dogman with blunt force trauma. I forgot to mention 2 things about this in past emails. Sometimes a Sabe would pull out a dead dogman's teeth as a trophy. After they kill one, they will tear the body into pieces and spread it in various places on the edge of the territory as a warning to other dogmen not to come there. I have no idea if the Sabe in other regions feel this way or not. In the few travels I've had out of my home state, the Sabe say the same things. In the end, they could be lying. For all I know, the dogman and Sabe sit around smoking weed together, laughing at how gullible humans are, as I've spoken of before. I give the Sabe the benefit of the doubt till they prove otherwise. As for the dogman abilities, the Sabe say they, dogman, can do everything they can do, meaning this: mind speak, cloaking, tagging, Jedi mind tricks, invasion of dreams, opening, closing, and travel through portals. I realize then that if this is true, then the dogmen are cognitive, sentient beings just like us and the Sabe, which means they have language, and where there is language, there is culture, and where there is culture, there is belief system. If that is true, dogmen have a name that they call themselves. The Sabe insist they have no idea what wolf creatures call themselves. They have wanted to know for millennia. Remember, to them, names have power. If you have a name, you have power over it. The Sabe once told me if you want to know what they call themselves, you'll have to ask them, which brings me to the next thing. These dogman things, they are tight-lipped, arrogant, nefarious, unreceptive, secretive, proud, disrespectful. I've had them infiltrate my dreams, and it's always the same thing. They refuse to answer to me and try to stare me down with intimidation. If you're looking for them, they will come and find you. I wouldn't trust these damn things if they dressed up like Little Red Riding Hood's grandmother. My sister and I have been working on this for the past year. I trust her judgment over anyone else. We have been looking for a weakness that the Sabe can use against them with some success. In a previous email, I mentioned there is a downside to communicating with the Sabe. When you become friends with them, their enemies become your enemies. You want to befriend some Sabe? Well, get ready for the dogman to show up, and they did. The first thing they will do is find that clan of Sabe you have connected with, and the war will begin. The Sabe will put up with a good fight. But eventually the dogmen come in packs and it's over. The Sabe will cut their losses and find a new place to live. They may never again come back to that place once the dogman takes over. Then the dogman will come to you and do everything they can to scare the hell out of you. The Sabe may even post a guard to watch over your family when this happens. It happened to me. The dogman didn't come near my place, but it crept around my neighbor's house at night, growling and scaring the hell out of them. Not just any neighbor, but the only neighbor I treat as family. They came to me and told me what was going on. I had no clue at the time. Eventually that stuff came to an end. My neighbors were a retired couple in their 70s, and I had to assure them there was nothing to worry about. They were like parents to me, and I never told them what was really going on for their sake. Anytime something weird went down in the neighborhood, I was the one they called. As crazy as that sounds, I now gift the Sabe with hickory, wood pick axe handles. I tell them to use these against the dogman. They won't break like a tree limb. Sounds crazy, but to the Sabe, it's a perfect weapon. I keep a few spare long pickaxe handles in my garage if any of them need a new one. As bizarre as this sounds, they seem to lack the ability to think of the obvious. Remember, I mentioned that. They seem to lack the part of the brain that controls innovation. A wooden axe at the top, a wooden axe handle is acceptable to them. A pickaxe at the top wouldn't be. It's a cultural thing. The Amish, more than caveman maybe. I'm a bad friend trying to influence them with how to wage war. Human influence does have long-lasting implications, which is something I try to be more cognizant of now. The Sabes say these dogmen give birth to 1 to 3 young ones. They don't reproduce quickly, and their numbers are much lower than theirs. The males do not have a bulbous glandus, as canines do, but instead have a penis that is more or less like an uncircumcised human. The females have 2 breasts like humans, primates and Sabe. Yeah, I asked the Sabe these questions. Steve, you're a man who knows animals and studies nature. I think you understand the implications of what I just conveyed. It is difficult to swallow, is it not? Our whole ride on this planet is difficult to swallow for me. I personally have not come across anyone who has built a relationship with these wolf creatures in a similar way many have with the Sabe. There are a lot of people There are a lot of people who have forged friendships with Sabe through mind speak. They're a pretty tight-lipped, secretive bunch, and they don't publicly talk about it for obvious reasons. Even then, I have discovered a lot of the Sabes have not been as forthcoming as they have with myself and my friends. Remember, they have rules, and they usually adhere to. I do know a few people who have had short mind-speak communications with Dogman. None of it was good. It was intimidating, and as they said, deceptive. It wouldn't shock me if there are some people who have a relationship with these wolf things, and I would bet they would say anything I say is wrong. Personally, I wouldn't trust them. Think about eyewitness accounts of what they look like. They are way overarmed to kill elk, deer, and moose. Why do they have that size and strength, teeth, and sharp claws? Why do they have to have that type of armament? What kind of creature are they built to take down? Think about it. What do you got in the go there? Huh? Are you ruining my elk, my moose horns? I do know that there will often be a territory boundary where these beings will live that may appear as coexistence. You once mentioned how wolves will know when another wolf crosses the established territorial boundary, even if it's miles away and the invader is attacked. Yeah, it's a crazy fact, which has been proven. The same thing with the Sabe and the Dogman, unless one or the other drives the entire group out in some fashion. All I know is where I live, the Sabe want nothing to do with these wolf creatures. Most other mind-speaking humans I know who interact with clans of Sabe have told me the same thing. Very simple way to understand all of this. There are people who know they have Sabes on their property. Then all of a sudden, Dogmen show up. Do they see the Sabe like they used to? If you don't, my guess, they left and probably will never return. Are Dogmen dangerous? Honestly, I would move the hell away. I've discovered you can usually reason with the worst of the Sabe, even their criminals. The Sabe have this respect for God, their creator, that even Christians can't seem to fathom. The fear of unforgiveness keeps their criminals in prisons that have no bars. You can reason with Sabe. Whatever Dogmen are, they are a lethal combination of wild canine with the cognitive sentience of humanity, and I wouldn't trust that for anything. I do know this. Do not try to harm them. The only reason I say this is it never seems to work out well for people who do. It seems best to just leave them alone. They will leave you alone. That sounds kind of weird. They'll leave you alone. Well, why do they not leave the Sasquatch or Sabe people alone? And when they come to your home and start growling and scaring the shit out of everybody or killing your livestock, that's not leaving us alone either, right? So, I mean, I appreciate everything you're saying, but for me personally, it's going to take a lot to convince me to not let's get it on with something of that description staring me down anywhere, especially right here on my property here. I'm going with my gut. My gut right now is screaming absolute threat with what I'm learning about these things. And I'll tell you what, I don't turn my back on the threat, right? Anyway. Steve, I can't fault you for wanting to send a bullet through his cranium, but I would advise against that. I think one of the reasons they love to project superiority over humans is to provoke you to do something, which gives them legal rights to go after you. Yeah, I said legal. Spiritual laws have legalities to them, and we don't know these laws. But one of those laws is this. Draw close to me and I draw close to you. You make the first move of hostility and they are allowed to come back at you. Let me explain. I have another friend who lived in a valley in Oklahoma. He kept horses, had 3 mares that got raped and mutilated so badly he had to put them down. He had no idea until he caught a dogman in the act of raping another mare. So he pulled out a shotgun. He comes at this dogman who pulls himself out of the mare. While he does that, it sticks its claws into her hindquarters on both sides, then pushes her away. Needless to say, the horse is going crazy the whole time. The dogman stands there and then walks towards my friend. He aims and shoots. The dogman gets hit in the shoulder, and it just flinches a bit. It stops, looks at my friend, and starts talking in some unknown language. It then sneers at him and keeps coming toward him. He shoots it again and hits it in its midsection, and it goes down screaming and rolling around. As it's flopping around the ground, 2 more dogmen show up. They look at my friend, look at the dogman on the ground wounded. They both go over and pick up the wounded one. They pick him up as 2 soldiers pick up a wounded comrade. One arm over the shoulder and neck of the 2 others. So the 2 dogmen looked up at my friend and they both spoke to him in some language. He said they spoke and it was language, but he had no idea what. They then marched off in the dark with their wounded buddy. He was shocked by the whole thing. The last mare survived. He never had an issue with them again while he lived there. He did eventually move. He told me the new place had Sabe and they were a non-issue. He swears to this day, dogmen give off a vibe you can feel, and he avoids any place that has that feel to it. He was violated first. The dogman provoked violence first, and his comrades had no legal spiritual right to respond in kind. What are you doing, puppy? I'll finish with this. I suspect Angie's vision of a Sabe projecting a thought/vision or letting her see through his eyes. Yes, it's hard to accept this, and I wouldn't believe it if I had not witnessed this happen unexpectedly to a friend of mine. Cloaking hides our eyes from them. The Sabe say animals and everything else can see them when they are doing that. I think Angie was seeing the dogman with the Sabe's eyes, not her own. Words are often difficult for the Sabe to convey through mind speak, so an image is sent to get a message across. It is possible the Sabe were warning Angie of what is now at her homestead. I could be wrong. I'm not an expert, but this is just my opinion. Angie, all I can say is don't provoke these things. Ignore them the best you can and hope they leave. You and your children fit a profile I come up with years ago that people who communicate with the Sabe seem to have. I would not recommend talking to these dogmen. I wouldn't trust them, especially if you have been on good terms with the Sabe who used to frequent your homestead. Don't be afraid because they seem to gloat in making people fear them. I wish I could be of more help, but dogmen are out of my pay grade, so I obviously am very biased against them. The other thing is, people who practice the occult love those things. That alone is reason to avoid them. I hope this is helpful. To the best of my ability, everything I've spoken of here is true as much as I can recall. I had to check some of my notes to make sure. I may be off in a few details. Do not go seeking these things out. They are not Sabe. If the Sabe think they are bad news, we should too. Way too many people are now looking for these wolf things. These things will tag you. They will follow you home and look in your windows. They will mind speak to your young children. They don't respect boundaries. They won't respect boundaries. I know someone who was trying to salvage one of these things that was fresh. What? I know someone who was trying to salvage one of these things that was fresh roadkill in Texas. He, his brother, and his entire family is now stalked by these things simply because he was trying to harvest a dead body of one. He can't even go fishing anymore without them showing up. I can deal with the Sabe. I can deal with them looking in window, mind speaking and such. I'm biased. Based on my personal experience with them, I don't know what is worse to deal with. I can deal with giant hairy caveman looking people. Werewolves, no thanks. Blessings to all who have ears to hear the owl man. There's a holy shit email, right? Another one. Take from it what you will or leave it. Obviously, that is a lot for your average human being to listen to and accept as fact, right? Especially with our limited knowledge on these damn things running around. For me, I already said it flat out. It wasn't too long ago that I just kind of shook my head when I heard about people talking about Dogman. I'm like, oh Christ, whatever. Moving along. But not anymore, not me. As I like to think that I'm not a dumbass, because only a dumbass would not listen to good, hardworking, honest people who are not linked in any way reporting the exact same freaking thing, right? You are a brain-dead window licker if you ignore your true community, which is your family and your neighbors and your coworkers. You're a dumbass. Obviously, there's going to be bullshitters out there. Obviously, I know there's people out there looking for attention, but there's not 10,000 of them spread around the planet, unlinked in any way, reporting the exact same thing, right? And that, as far as, not just a Dogman topic, but that goes as far as what the Rumble movie died suddenly is the exact same thing. When you have medical professionals around the globe screaming at us the truth and the facts of what's going down, if you can't turn your back anymore, you can't turn away and hide and pretend it's going to go away. You can't. It isn't a movie. It's fact. We were talking about it last night. I'm getting off a little off topic again, but what the hell? It's funny. It's not funny, but I am imagining, I don't know how many years from now, I think, if there's still some of us surviving, which I'm sure the good people will be, what will they be teaching in the history books of this time, right? What will be taught in the history books in the future of this time right now, right? It's not good. Hopefully the story will end with the rising up of the good people kicking the frickin' ass of the bad, evil sons of bitches who, they just can't be human beings, man. The bad people on the planet today, they can't be human, can they? They can't be. They can't be. But anyway, all right, moving along. Moving along. Al, man, appreciate you, man. Absolutely appreciate your time. You're not taking up lots of my time. You just donated your time to the people again. People wrote in and asked, and you answered. Absolutely appreciate you, man. And again, I have a 300 Ultra Mag that I believe would probably take care of a Dogman pretty good. All right, Sasquatch disappears is the title of this email. Hello, Steve. My name is Tyler Keene. Yes, you can share my name. I've watched your channel for almost 3 years. When your channel was only hunting stories. I think you're doing great things here and wish you all the best. I'm 33 years old, spent the majority of my life on the southwest coast of Florida. I did, however, spend 3 years in Ohio. I swear the weirdest things go on in Ohio, bracket, from the ages of 20 to 23. This is where my encounter happened. I was invited to a party at a friend's property in the county of Piketon, close to Waverly, Ohio. It was towards the end of the fall, but still hadn't had the first snow yet. After I arrived, my buddy, we'll call him Leroy, said, "Tyler, we don't have enough seating at the small fire pit by the house. Can we take your truck up to the big fire pit on the hill and put the picnic table in the bed of your truck?" I agreed to help. So Leroy and myself clambered into my truck and started taking the little dirt trail that takes us to the other side of the property and up a decent-sized hill. The hill is the highest point on Leroy's property, which is 18 acres. It's about 150 to 200 feet in elevation above the lowest point on the property. About halfway up, it has a small landing about 15 yards wide and 30 yards long. This is where a small camping area with a picnic table and a fire pit are located. I reverse as far up as I can get my truck, which is about 50 feet away from where this picnic table is. I turn my truck off and Leroy and I get out. Now it's about 9 p.m. and pitch black outside. The second my feet hit the ground, it felt off, like we shouldn't be there. Down by the house, we could hear every cricket and bug making all kinds of racket. But as soon as I closed the door to my truck, it was like being in a vacuum. I just shrugged my shoulders and pressed on towards the picnic table. I know I shouldn't have. My gut was screaming, leave, but I ignored it. We walked about 15 steps when I asked Leroy if he has a flashlight. He says, yes, hold on. I then hear the click of the flashlight, and the white beam of light goes from left to right and stops on what looked like a very large, hairy tree stump. Before I could even get a word out, this hairy tree stump stands up and turns to face us. He looked pissed and confused, and yes, it was definitely a he. Like we just interrupted whatever he was doing. Its eyes turned red, and they were lit from within. Okay, hold on a minute. His eyes turned red, like they were lit from within. So you're telling me that the eyes went to red from not being red. That's an interesting point for me to take in. That's interesting. That is possibly a show of emotion, right? It was maybe 2 seconds, and I began to open my mouth to say, what the F is that? But I didn't even get half of the word what before this thing breaks into full sprint right at us. That would suck. It startled Leroy so bad he dropped the flashlight, but it didn't matter. It seemed like my body knew I needed all hands on deck, and it seemed like it wasn't as dark as it was before. The speed and power didn't seem real. We were both stuck to the ground, unable to move from paralyzing fear. He covered that 30 feet in 1.5 seconds. I could feel the ground under my feet rumble with every footfall. When he got 3 to 4 feet from us like a football player, he juked to his left, our right, at a 90-degree turn and started to run down the hill. This is the weirdest part. When he got out of our sight, we could hear him running down the side of the hill because of all the dead leaves in the ground. He ran about 7-8 strides, and then it went dead silent. Leroy and I stood in the dark and silence, about to have a heart attack for a good 3 to 4 minutes, thinking he only ran a short distance and had to be right there out of our line of sight, just waiting to tear us apart. I finally got the courage to ask Leroy to pick up his flashlight and shine it down the hill. He did, as asked, and there was nothing there. On the side of this hill, there aren't any trees until you get to where it's flat. So there was nothing to hide behind, and of course the leaves on the ground make a racket. He just disappeared. 1 second we can hear leaves crunching, and huge, heavy footsteps pounding the earth and running down the side of the hill, and the next second, ear-shattering silence. Leroy and I stood in shock, staring at nothing but woods for over an hour until someone came looking for us. That hour felt like 5 seconds, and we also didn't share a word for that entire hour. We were so mind-blown and terrified. No doubt. It's taken me years to wrap my head around what happened that night. Leroy and I have talked about it in private numerous times. We both agree we saw a Sasquatch, and we both felt in our gut that something was off. But the part that we can't get over is, where did it go? It either went completely invisible and stopped running, it could fly, or went into a portal. Leroy and I agreed on the portal theory because once the sound of it running down the hill ended, the feeling of being in a vacuum instantly went away. The Sasquatch was charcoal in color on his back, but more gray on his chest, face, and stomach area. His hair, yes, hair, was not fur. It was 4 inches long max on his back, arms, and legs, but about 8 to 10 inches long on the head, and beard area, but little to no hair on his face, hands, and top of his feet. The skin color was grayish black. He was every bit of 10 feet tall and 4 feet wide. He wasn't ripped like I've heard others say, but he definitely had muscles for his muscles, if you know what I mean. His arms were very long, a little hunched over with a cone-shaped head and no visible neck. I couldn't see what color his eyes would be without the red glow, but his eyes did go from barely glowing red to full-blown bright red in a span of a couple of seconds. Okay, that would scare the living shit out of anything. And needless to say, the experience ruined that party for us, but I decided to stay the night because I wanted to see the hill in the daylight. The next morning, we'd take a look and find every single footprint of this thing running and tearing up the ground, and you can see where it rounded the hill, but the tracks suddenly stop halfway down. I've never been so scared and confused in my entire life. I for sure thought I was going to get ripped apart by that thing. I hope I never have an encounter again. It ruined the woods for me for about 8 years. I do get back to the woods regularly these days, but I don't go without bear spray and my trusty 44 Magnum. Thank you again, Steve, for this platform to help so many. Keep it up and keep strong. Rest in peace, macaroni. Wow. That is what probably 99.9% of us don't want to experience, what you went through. That would be a real dirty shit eater. No thanks. The eye thing, I think for me, that's the first time that somebody mentioned that the eyes went from not glowing bright red to glowing bright red, right? Because usually everybody says they looked over and here's these bright red eyes looking at us. What are you doing? You tired of me doing this? You want me to come out and play, don't you? Huh? She went to chase the cat under the boat, and the stainless steel prop blade stopped her dead in her tracks via her noggin. Split her eye, split her forehead open. They don't seem to feel pain too much, do they? She kind of sat back, shook her off, and kept going. But anyway, what do you need? You want to go play? In a bit. Anyway, thanks for sharing that, man. Thanks for that description. I don't know if you mentioned if it had a more of a man-looking face to it or not, but one thing for sure is when you get these descriptions, which are basically every time, that's what makes it kind of tough for me to not take shots at the people who keep leaving pheromone chips hanging from branches to hopefully catch a monkey in the rut on a trail camera. Why aren't those people listening to the people? I don't get it. You know what I mean? There's so many blatant cases of people just not listening to the people. It's amazing. I mean, when you've got 10,000 people saying the same shit, and these people who are interested in somewhat the same topic go like this and listen and go, whatever. I'm buying 50 more trail cameras and I got some real good monkey piss to put on branches. You know what I mean? And I've got, and a friend of mine, they won the whooping contest on the reality show. So we're bringing them along too, because they really know how to whoop in the night. Said no frickin' correctly functioning mind ever, right? Why don't these people listen to you all? I don't get it. But then again, we have blatant examples of people just not listening to the people on a variety of topics. It's frustrating, man. Very frustrating. But the people who need control and power love the shit out of it, don't they? They love that genetic flaw, that character flaw. They love it. They're like, yes, bring us the dummies. We love dummies. We don't have power control without dummies. All right. Anyway, appreciate that email, man. I learned more myself from that email, and I want to keep learning more. It's piss and rain. Damn it. All right. Steve, for your eyes only. All right, man, I'll read that later. What else do we have? We got a couple photos again. Better mark this as red. This is titled, Dunsmuir, UFO and Bigfoot, third email. Thank you. All right. Hi, Steve. Apologies for a long email, but I have to talk about it. I recently found your channel 3 days ago. I find your videos comforting and beautiful. I love the rural life and wilderness. I sent you 2 emails of UFOs, but that was actually only part of it. My little girl seen a Bigfoot and said it watched and followed us by our home that was across the road from the Sacramento River by the borderlines of Shasta and Siskiyou County, Colorado. CO, period. That was the first time she'd seen it. She kept that part to herself until the second time. I'm a single mother and I've lived with my little girl and my oldest daughter in Northern California for several years before we finally got out of there. It was my sanctuary. I used to hike with a female friend of mine and stay at her camp in Castle Crags State Park. I would bring my little girl, who was 11 years at the time. The place her camp was at sat close to the river and the only smooth place of ground that had no volcanic outcrops that surrounded the area. It was quite a hike to get there. We went over some streams and we crossed a couple of rivers, fields, small hills to get there. It was snuggled in a circle of trees, and the crags was an awesome sight that we were below it across that field. A couple of times we experienced orbs, strange shadows, laughing, growling, confusion. Our cell phones fully charged, going to zero charge, and then back to being charged. At one point, hearing her scream, us trying to call for help, an unexplainable time. That day included 2 other people looking for us, not finding us, and then having their own unusual experience. That was the strangest day I ever experienced, and as for my friend and I, left us wondering what the heck happened. We had gotten lost another time, my daughter wasn't with us that time, walking in a big circle that landed us back at camp. Seen orbs, heard something following us, branches cracking. Confused, we stayed at camp, trying to figure out what just happened. Made a big campfire, left at daylight. She never gets lost going to or leaving camp since she had it for a long time. Both occasions, seen UFOs and something else. In that area on the other side of the crags, on another camping trip during a total eclipse of the sun, another sighting. A UFO, then a Bigfoot. In the morning, my little girl and I were sitting by the stream when she sensed something, stood up and said, "Mom, we shouldn't be here." We walked up the embankment. She immediately stopped and said to me, "Mom, did you see that?" I did. I could see the hairy head over the tall tent walking by. The tent was high enough for an adult to stand in. Little dogs were held together, quiet and shaking inside of the tent. I took pictures of footprints that vanished by a tree going towards the stream. They were huge, deep, and wide. I don't have that phone anymore, otherwise I'd send the photos to you. That day, my daughter told me that was the second time she'd seen Bigfoot. I asked her where and when the first time was, and she said, "Mama, by our house in the woods where we were walking." For 2 years, I kept asking my friend about the lights and other anomalies that I experienced. One day, she finally answers me and said, "Yes, we see the lights, but we don't mention or talk about them. We leave them alone. Shh, we leave it alone. Shh." Never mention it again to me. I felt uneasy, and if you ever try to talk about these things, people think you're crazy. Those experiences, there were many, have changed my life. My daughter is happy living in the city and never wants to go back to the forest. I can't stand this city and prefer the woods, except for the fact of what happened. My daughter took pictures out there by the stream. I sent them into a Bigfoot research. The ones I thought had Bigfoot had none, but one that did, I was told, was a family of them in it. Go figure, right? Leave me scratching my head. So thank you for the safe place to express a portion of what happened to us. God bless you and keep you, protect you and family. Here's a pic of the area, Humboldt County, I'm guessing. On a nature walk with my 6-year-old grandson. He said to me, "Grandma, I think we should go. Something is here." I collected him close to me and walked strong and straight back to the car. Good move. And here's a couple photos with something circled. Who knows what it is? And again, it doesn't look like anything to me, but who am I, right? But I'll share them with everybody here. Thanks for that email. I appreciate your time, and I hope it gave you some sort of calm by sharing it here with everybody here. And that reminds me, when people talk about going to the city, always reminds me of a story that had a little bit of impact on me, relayed to me from a fellow hunter in British Columbia here, and his hunting partner, who was absolutely avid and keen, loved it. And I believe he was either an electrician or a plumber. He's a contractor, lived somewhat rural. I can't remember exactly where he was. Not too far from Vancouver. Anyway, he was out hunting, broke down, spent the night in his truck, and when he got home, he sold everything. Sold the house, the guns, the boat, the camper, anything outdoors, moved his family to the city, and he will not go anywhere near the frickin' forest ever again. Done. And won't talk about what happened that night. Shitty, right? Anyways, another quick note I forgot to mention earlier. As everybody knows, the Stamp River isn't too far away from me, as well as the Sprout River. I've taken you to both. And I have had so many local people here tell me of seeing these beings along the Stamp River. And obviously, you know what's happened to me on the Sprout River and the Stamp while I've been making these videos. But anyway, if we look out the back deck of the house across the valley, we can see the, oh my God, I just had our brain fart. There's a range of mountains, right? You know when somebody asks you what somebody's name is and you've known them all your life, and just the fact they ask you, your brain goes, ah, shit. Well, that just happened. Oh, the Beaufort Range. Sorry, the Beaufort Range Mountains. You can see them across the way. And Sarah and I were in Tubman one night and saw a very, very bright light halfway up that hill in the timber. And then that night there was helicopters flying low all over here, out back here. We're like, what the hell's going on, right? And then what else? Had other people email me from here to say, you want to see one of these things, just go hike along the Stamp River. I don't know how many people around here have said the same thing. There's been, I don't know how many sightings within, I don't know, 2 miles of where I live, in a circle. Anyway, last night, Sarah's on some local Facebook page here, and everybody in town was going off, wondering why are so many helicopters flying low around the valley and around the river, and airplanes flying low last night. So there you go. What's up? What's up with that, right? Well, Sarah has some friends who own helicopters, and they said that helicopters aren't supposed to be flying at nighttime. The next time it happens over the house, to flash a flashlight up at them. And I was away hunting, I believe, and she said helicopters were coming low over the timber here, and she flashed a flashlight up at them, and then they moved off and never came back, which is probably coincidence because I can't see some woman in her backyard with a handheld flashlight scaring off a helicopter at nighttime, right? But anyway, I wonder what's going on, right? What's going on? Why are helicopters flying around the Alberni Valley Stamp River at nighttime low? Anyway, I gotta go on. I got shit to do. And make sure you check out the link below for Mark Bashaw. He cares about you, and he's done a lot, donated a lot of his time for you all. So throw a little bit of respect back and have a listen to him, all right? What else? Sarah's hat store has more hats jammed in it, and there's a lot more coming in a couple days. And that's it for now. I'll be back soon.